Teen Media founder Ron Luce reveals new ways to reach the next generation. Plus, Ephraim Graham shares his top 5 trending stories. All that and more on today's 700 Club Interactive. Welcome to the show. Here's Ephraim Graham with this week's top 5 from Studio 5.
At number 5.
The state of the world is what made me very passionate about doing this film.
Snapshots from Taraji P. Henson and Sam Rockwell's next film, based on the true story of civil rights activist Ann Atwater and Ku Klux Klan leader C.P. Ellis, who end up working together to deal with a court-ordered school desegregation decree.
Where are we gonna go to school now?
I'm gonna find you somewhere real nice to go.
The council will vote to either adopt or reject school integration.
Folks in this town like things the way they are.
We gonna beat school segregation once and for all.
The Best of Enemies is in theaters April 5th.
You ought to know, CP.
No, what?
Same God made you, made me.
At number 4.
I am actually the first female to be offered a full-ride scholarship to play college football at a four-year university as a non-specialist.
East Los Angeles Community College's Antoinette Tony Harris is making quite the splash since her Super Bowl commercial.
She is the first woman to receive a full college football scholarship offer.
Harris will be one of the few women ever to play college football.
She is making history and shattering expectations from high school homecoming queen to a college football defensive back.
Now revealing exactly where.
I will be signing to Central Methodist University. I just really appreciate my coaches for it. Sorry. I said I wasn't gonna cry.
A dream come true for the young woman who grew up in foster care and battled ovarian cancer at age 18.
As I grew and, getting more into God and, having my faith and everything, I knew that it was gonna happen. When you do as he asks you, he blesses you in return.
And Tony's next dream?
My dream moving forward is to become the first female NFL player. Sorry, I can't stop smiling when I say that.
At number 3.
I know it's about funerals. I done buried a lot of men. A lot of them.
Tyler Perry might want to reconsider retiring Madea. A Madea family funeral bowed in strong second place with $27 million, the 4th best opening in the 9-film comedy franchise.
But for Tyler Perry, the box office success is a chance for Madea to leave the business on top.
It's been a good run. Something, all good things must come to an end. And a lady always knows when to leave, so she knew to leave.
At number 2.
Surprise, guys! Can you believe it? I'm about to be a mommy shot very soon!
Big news from former Today Show host Tamron Hall.
Tamron Hall is set to return to television, but with a new title, Mom.
Hall shared the news on Instagram, posting, "I've wanted to share this news for many months, and now my doctors say I'm in a safe place at 32 weeks. My husband Stephen and I are beyond excited. We're in constant prayer, so if you pray, add us to your list."
She announced her syndicated talk show, Tamron Hall, produced by Disney ABC, will premiere September 9th.
At number 1. Missy Elliott is among the stars performing at the first ever Something in the Water music festival. Brought to you by Pharrell Williams.
No offense to you, don't waste your time.
He plans to launch a new music and cultural festival in his hometown of Virginia Beach. It will also include a pop-up church service. The festival begins April 26. Tickets go on sale Friday.
Well, Ephraim's here with us live, and let's talk about a festival coming here.
Yeah.
With a pop-up church service.
Pop-up church
What
service.
is a pop-up church service?
Pharrell is coming home. This is Virginia Beach. This is his home. And if you know anything about Pharrell and his family, he comes from a long line of ministers. So I kind of felt I cannot come home and do this festival and not have acknowledgement of God and worship, because it's going to span over a weekend. And, I know some of his uncles who are great leaders in the church here in the area. So I'm sure that would say hand in that saying, wait a minute, son.
So where's it going to be? Is it
going to be on the beach? On the beach.
In April.
In April.
It can get
really fast. I know. Really, it's actually a response to, for those of us who live here, we know the history of college beach weekend in Virginia Beach and always problems with violence and things of that nature. This is sort of a response to that with Pharrell Williams and Virginia Beach coming together saying, we want to give young people something to do, constructive, and we want it to be something that will attract people from all over the country. So it's akin to Coachella in California. We're having something in the water
here. That does not have
here.
a pop-up church service.
No, it doesn't have a pop-up church service. There's the difference.
And the infamous Greek Week wasn't about church at all.
So we're going in a different direction here. A great list of artists, and the goal is to make it affordable for people to actually be there for those 3 days.
Are you going?
My wife and I talked about it last night, and we're probably going to foot the bill for at least 3 tickets.
You don't seem excited.
I'm excited.
You don't seem like you want to spend the weekend.
We have to go. I've got a daughter who, of course, wants to be there. My son would love to come home for this, and he goes, Dad, just when I leave, now they have this. So I think we'll be there as well.
So the whole family's coming?
The whole family? No. The 3 of us. We will go, and we'll be there for the pop-up church service for sure.
All right, Ann Atwater. What a story.
Amazing
What a
story.
legacy. And now a movie.
And now a movie. It's been a book, it's been a stage play, and now a movie. People not familiar with it. Ann Atwater working in civil rights in the North Carolina area. And literally, she and a Ku Klux Klan leader are assigned to help sort of lead this desegregation movement. And
who made that decision?
Leaders on opposing sides saw fit to put these two together, figuring, okay, the only way to make this work is to get these two loudmouths together. And they share, there's interviews online with both of them talking about how much they just had disdain for each other starting off. And what happens is...
Well, of course they...
Yeah, of course. but they have this battle going on, and she says one thing that sort of helped them both realize how stupid they were behaving was they had this meeting at this school, and they're going back and forth and fighting each other, and they're both left behind. And some students, white and black, come to them and say, we'd like to go to school together. This is what we want. And then they find a common cause, realizing that we can get behind better qualified teachers, because of what they realized, that in both schools, there were teachers there who weren't necessarily the best at what they did, and they both had a love for children and wanted to give their children the best, and that united the two. They were lifelong friends. She attended his funeral. He denounced his membership in the KKK. There you see a loving photograph between the two. That became a common practice, but they both had fiery mouths from beginning to end.
Well, it's a great story for all of us. How do we come together? And these are turbulent times still.
Absolutely.
And the best thing, well, let's get in a room and talk. And maybe we should have some kids around to help us out.
Children, really. I mean, they see it a whole lot clearer than we do.
Yeah, and they see it from the standpoint of, we want to do this.
Absolutely.
And we want to get together. All right. Speaking of movies, is this really the last ride?
This is the last ride. He said it again and again in terms of Madea, but $27 million. The first time I interviewed Tyler Perry, I asked him, when would Madea go away? And he said, when people stop watching and it stopped making money. But he says he's getting too old to continue and keep this up. So this will be the last ride.
She can age gracefully, too.
She can. She can.
It seems to be an audience that demands
that really demands this.
Really into this.
They're going to miss this. In the midst of the movie, he's on tour right now, touring the country with Medea's final play. So he's saying, this is it. Put Madea to bed.
It's not like Medea's Bond or anything, and you have to...
He could maybe get someone else, I guess.
I mean, she could do it.
We could replace Bond. We can replace Madea.
All right, Toni Harris.
Oh, my.
She's breaking all kinds of barriers, and I'm amazed she got a full scholarship. And here she is, a defensive back, which means you got to really go out there and hit people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She says that she has tattooed on her side, be so good they can't ignore you. And that's sort of the motto she lives by. She believes no excuses, work hard. I mean, for someone at 18 to be diagnosed with ovarian cancer, to beat ovarian cancer, and she didn't have the best of childhood. She had been in at least 3 to 4 foster homes, and at least 2 of them she was abused in those foster homes. But still, an amazing faith in God. She said that when she found God and committed to him, and literally, truly committed in terms of, I'm going to be pure. I'm going to be in church. I'm going to be in my Bible. I'm going to pray. And she has amazing stories of she literally prays specific prayers and asks God to do certain things, even in the midst of her game. And then she goes, sometimes I'm just standing there going, oh my God, he did it. He did it. He gave me exactly what I asked for. So it's an amazing testament.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Love her.
Is there a movie? Is there a movie coming?
There's definitely a movie there. Devon Franklin, listen up. That's the next one. That's the next one to
you're not going to produce it?
Well, I'll leave it to those who are better than me. I'm still trying to be so good they can't ignore it.
I mean, take it up to NFL Draft Day.
You know, it is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I love it.
For all the latest in entertainment news, all you have to do is check out Ephraim's weekly show, Studio 5. You can watch it on the CBN News channel or online at cbn.com/Studio5. And please encourage Ephraim to go out there and start producing some movies. And we'll see you again.
I'm going to hit Gordon up and underwrite it. Okay.
Send the emails to Ephraim. Oh, you know how to get the funding for it. Well, coming up, is it difficult for you to spend some quiet time with God?
We're human, and that we have all these things in the past and triggers and, traumas and all these things that are constantly vying for our attention.
See how you can get focused in the secret place. That's next when we come back. When you're trying to spend some one-on-one time with God, you're almost guaranteed to encounter distractions. Well, here's how you can get past them and enter the secret place.
For me, one thing that I know is when you quiet yourself, especially if it's new for you, all these things will fill your mind, like practical things. I need to buy milk, I need to feed the dog, all these things flood our minds. And what really helps is to have a pen and just to write those things down that your mind can be at rest.
He knows that we're human and that we have all these things in the past and triggers and, traumas and all these things that are constantly vying for our attention.
I think it's so common to be distracted in the secret place. A lot of times what I feel, God is also trying to speak through the distraction. I love how some people have told me, don't get so distressed when you're distracted. You're a human being. You still have flesh. And so, but I really feel like God's voice is sometimes in the distraction. If you're distracted by a certain person or a circumstance that you're in that's really bothering you, and you feel like it's disengaging you from enjoying God, press into it. Because God will sometimes want to heal that emotion or whatever you're struggling with in the moment. And so if you're having a hard time with something, ask God about it. Be like, you know what, God, this is really taking up my brain space here, but speak to me about this. Heal me.
Even if there's been like this big block, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna head like, full-fledged at this block and figure out what the heck is going on. And almost every time, like, on the other side of that is an encounter, or on the other side of that is a revelation or something that he was wanting to give me in return. And so even in those situations where it looks concerning, like, I don't know, he's so good how he always just turns it around.
I would say that the more you practice the secret place, the more you learn to enjoy God, and your heart is turned more inward. Your gaze is more inward on experiencing Jesus inside you. Yes, distractions do fade. They do fade away because they're not getting attention. You're not feeding them anymore.
Come to a place where you just rest in His presence. You just literally rest and say, God, here I am. I'm just here to be with you. Will you show me what you have for our time? And that through worship, so seeking His face and asking for hunger. I pray this, God, give me hunger. Make me hungry for more. I want to be hungry. Hunger is a gift. Hunger for God. Ask God for hunger.
You know, Paul says we have divine weaponry to destroy strongholds. Then he goes on to say, therefore take every thought captive that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, make it obedient to Christ, in 2 Corinthians 10. So he's saying that our thoughts can be altered by the enemy, or they could be listening to lies that are not from him that would discourage us from being with the Father because we don't believe he's good, or someone said something over you that's a curse of some sort, like you'll never amount to anything, or you can't connect with God. And it's like, that is not true. Like Jesus says, my sheep know my voice and they listen to my voice in John 10:10, because they being us have been given that relationship through Holy Spirit.
You can hear his voice. You can know that you're loved by him. And all of that comes in that secret place. Now, there are plenty of distractions along the way. Hudson Taylor wrote 150 years ago about the distractions he faced in his prayer life. And he made the comment, it seems whenever I want to pray, the Venetian blinds always need adjusting. There's always something that is trying to get your attention away from God and get your focus from going to that place of revelation. But it's in that place of revelation that you find the encouragement, that you find the comfort, that you find what you really need. One of the curious things about Jesus when he lived on the earth, and here he is 3 years in ministry, he's always going away by himself, either to a mountaintop, to the seashore. He's getting away from the crowd to do one thing, and that is to pray, to find communion with the Father. And his disciples asked him just one question. You look through the Bible, and the one thing that they asked him to teach them was teach us how to pray, because they realized that the secret to the power, the secret to everything was his relationship with the Father. I see the Father work, and I work. So get into that secret place. Ask him for direction for the day. Start your day with it, end your day with it, and realize that wonderful things can happen. The more time you spend with God, the better you're going to be. Well, make sure to join us tomorrow as our Secret Place series continues. These videos are also posted on our Facebook page, so please take some time and look at them there and then share them with your friends. Well, still to come, his youth events have reached more than 3 million teens in North America alone. Now he's working with leaders in 100 nations to prepare for the first ever Jesus Global Youth Day. Ron Luce is here to share how you can help reach the next generation right after this. Ron Luce has reached millions of teens in the U.S. with the gospel message, and now he's going global to find even more effective ways to reach the next generation. Take a look.
Ron Luce has reached millions of teenagers with the message of Christ, but that's getting harder to do with the decline of biblical values in our culture. In order to combat this problem, Ron is bringing together youth leaders from across the world for Jesus Global Youth Day in Manila, Philippines. It will be the world's largest global summit with youth leaders coming together to share what's working in reaching young people and how they can pass those strategies down to the next generation.
Well, Ron is here, and let's talk about your next big project where you're having a global day.
Jesus Global Youth Day. You know, the Catholics have actually been doing this for 3 decades.
Oh, really?
John Paul started it, and I talked to several, the guys that were his left and right when he started, and they said nobody in the Catholic Church wanted to do it. You know, the cardinals, nobody wanted to do it, but he said, we're going to do it, we're going to do it. And the youth came, and now, 30 years later, all the cardinals love it. The archbishops come. We get just as much encouragement as the young people do, seeing them come together. They just had one in Panama. So Bishop F. Tendero, who you know, who's from the Philippines, who's the leader now of the World Evangelical Alliance, probably 5 or 7 years ago, we were talking about young people of the world. He goes, well, the Catholics have been doing it. Why don't the Protestants do an event like this? Ron, we need to do it, and you need to lead this. And I'm thinking, well, I'm busy. I got events
your
every
assignment.
Well, yeah, and so, but the seed that kind of continued to build and begin to build relationships all around the world, And so it's the coming together of church leaders to focus on the next generation. Of course, we're inviting them to come with their youth groups. And I think the thing that's what we're trying to do that's really different, leaders are frustrated all around the world. Almost every place you go, Christianity is shrinking. There's we call the grain of the church. There's a lot of old people, very few young people, both in America and around the world.
Not in the Philippines.
In the Philippines, there are some movements of young disciples, which are great, but the whole evangelical church isn't full of young. But it's a young nation, though.
Yeah.
And so
South Korea is the poster child for this. They lost a generation.
With 33% down to 1.7% now for the young generation. In one generation, they lost.
And here was a nation dedicated, a church dedicated to prayer,
right?
Dedicated to seeking God, dedicated to missions, and they lost their youth.
So, as I've traveled and met with leaders from like 100 different nations, there's this overall sort of like, what do we do? They know that they're all on their phones, they get the culture from the West and all of that. What do we do? And as we talk about the vision for Jesus Global Youth Day, and that it's not just us coming together, that would be great if that was all it was, but we're also bringing together about a dozen different best practices, churches and leaders of the pastors that are reaching and discipling in like exponential levels. Like they're, for example, a church of 40,000 where 60% are under 25, things like that. They're reaching and discipling and to share their best practices with leaders all around the world. And so it's not like we have to reinvent the wheel or, split the atom. Has it ever been done? No, people know how to do this in not just having a big hype event, but having tools to reach and disciple that you can take back to your own culture, what applies, how do you adapt it to your culture, to your DNA of your ministry, and that kind of thing. So people can either come in person with their group, or they can host a watch party in their church. We've got about 83,000 churches signed up to do that now, where on the final day, they can fill their church with youth and be a part kind of a global connecting for the very first time and see a bunch of people come to Christ right there in their own city or their village.
How are you solving the time difference?
Well, it won't be live on that. It'll be 7 o'clock, your local time zone in your part of the world. And so it'll be translated many different languages around the world. And some places it'll be online, sometimes it'll be broadcast. So there'll be lots of different ways to get it depending on where you live.
Okay. How do people get involved? They heard you, they said, okay, can I go? Can I set up my own watch party? How do you
JesusGlobalYouthDay.com, simple as that. And you can click, you want to go or you want to watch. And we'll give you all the information about how you promote it in your local community, how do you bring a group if you want to bring a group, and how you can get involved in this first ever 10,000 voice virtual youth choir. We've got a theme song we're just rolling out a video for, and you can submit a video of your youth group singing the song. We're going to aggregate all those voices, and so we'd love to have you be a part of. Let's come together as the global body of Christ to focus on getting the baton of the gospel in the next generation's hands.
After the conference, what are you going to do to get the strategy out? Because I think that's the key piece going forward.
It is. Well, I have a book coming out that'll have a lot of the strategies, but probably more importantly than that is we're inviting the pastors that both come or that host a watch party in their country to join a global coalition of pastors who are serious about reaching and discipling. So it becomes an ongoing learning community. Hey, I tried this. There's a blog about this, a video about this. And so we're not going to get it all in one meeting, but we can start dipping our toe in the water and let's learn together. So we're really looking at the next decade, 2020 to 2030. Could we get 100,000, 500,000? Could we get 1 million churches that are aggressively going after the younger generation out of hope that we can do this, we can learn from each other and reaching and discipling the 13 and 14-year-olds that are the most likely to receive Christ anyways?
Most people don't know that. They don't know the concept of, it's called the 4-14 window.
Right.
That by the age of 14, if you haven't made a decision for Christ, it's going to get harder and harder every decade following that.
And one of the things that you also hear is, but there's no money in that. They can't tithe or give offerings. But we found just the opposite of that, where some of these best practices, where these churches are really focused on reaching the younger generation. They teach them to give and to tithe, and they actually get so blessed financially, it's like defies logic. And I could tell you the stories, but it's really amazing. So the common sort of logic, well, that doesn't pay for itself. Well, it does in God's economy.
Okay.
It does. It does. And it also brings life to your church, and hope. I think, and I'll tell you, one.
Are you serious? You really hear objections about reaching youth based on finances?
Oh yeah, because they don't tithe. Well, they don't have any money. They don't have jobs and all that kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but it's God's economy, and He wants to reach the next generation. I think.
Yeah, God's economy is all about how many people go to heaven.
Right.
You take care of that, God's going to take care of you.
Exactly.
And that's wow.
So it's a big leap. It's a paradigm shift, really, for adults, pastors to start focusing on the next generation because they think, I'm not young, I'm not cool. But the guy who runs MTV is not young and cool, but he's strategic, and so must we be.
Yeah, all you have to do is think about it. Jesus Global Youth Day will take place in Manila, August 8th through the 10th. And for more information how you can take part or how you can submit a music video of your youth group, all you have to do is go to cbn.com, and you can hear more from Ron on our Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/700 Club Interactive.